Damn, Ingenious made the beat? Yo, 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 welcome to another episode of the Coach Life Podcast Radio. I am, of course, your host, the Prince of Positivity, Coach Steve. Joining me, as always, the dime dropper himself, Coach Luna. How we doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Blessed always to have this opportunity with y'all, man. It's always a good opportunity to have these talks with y'all, man.
You know it, brother. You know it. And as always, the CEO, founder of the Coach Life Podcast Radio and Coach Life brand, the brand of building your brand, Coach Wash, Coach Lloyd. How we doing, brother?
Oh, we're doing great, per usual.
Yes, sir.
Ready
Yes,
to
sir.
go.
We got a special one for you, everybody out there. It's gonna be a little bit different, a little bit, little bit of a shift. I guess you could say. Normally, we have a cadence when we go through and we talk about a particular topic. In our first episode, we talked about the Coach Life podcast, and we talked about where this came from, where this venture came from, where this movement came from. And it came from an idea from Coach Lloyd having a traumatic experience. And we just talked about this off air. Sometimes you got to go through something to get through something to get to that next level, to get to your next level. So today is going to be a little bit, like I said, off the cuff, where we're going to go into a little bit of depth of where the Coach Life podcast came from, where the Coach Life brand came from, and the experiences that Coach Lloyd had to go through, get through, so that we can have these conversations that we having today. So this is very off the cuff, unfiltered. So that being said, Coach Lloyd, can you tell the Coach Life fans out there right now, where did the Coach Life brand come from? How did this start? And take us through the bridge of getting to the accident.
Man, so it was first day of autumn back in 1985, September 23rd.
Super specific.
Little baby was born.
On a farm. Was it on a farm?
Definitely on the farm. Woof. That was a vacant lot next door, but covered in glass and all type of shit. But no. So Coach Life started. I will go that far back. I think I do have to take it all the way back to my roots in Chicago, and just we'll talk a little bit of psychology, but like the foundation of who I am really formed when I grew up on the west side of Chicago. You know, just the exposure to a lot of poverty, violence, drugs. Good thing for me, I was fortunate to have two strong parents. My father, who made the choice to be a father, be a husband, and not continue down the road he was on in his youth himself, and just showed me strength. And I had a good village around me. You know, I don't think that's around it anymore. But like, even though I had that bad environment, I had a solid village. So I will say I was, as far as like my male cousins that grew up in that area, me and my brother, we managed to escape without a record. You know,
Which is rare.
we is very rare. You know, we made it out. Um,
Shout out B class too.
Shout out B class, my younger brother. He was a huge motivation for Coach Life. My responsibility that my father instilled in me, like watch over him. Don't you ever come home without him. If he's scraped up, you better be scraped up. And if you're not scraped up, it's because you scraped up everybody else that scraped him up.
Right. Facts.
That's the only way that works. You know what I'm saying? Don't neither one of y'all come home without each other. And even talking to him, he's like, you the little brother, but you got to step up too. And, you know, I held on to that in more ways than one, not just a matter of fighting or, you know, dealing with what we had to deal with where we grew up, but the responsibility comes with making good decisions too. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Without having him watching me, you know, it's certain things that I probably would have dabbled in a little bit more. With our age gap, I was away from him, and I was around some of my older cousins and around some other stuff without him sometimes. But like, you know, there was always that consciousness to check myself, talk
Right.
myself off of ledges. All right, don't go down that alley, or don't go with them to do this. You know,
Got
Byron.
some,
You know, Byron watching you. You know,
got some responsibility.
I got that responsibility that was always instilled in me. So, um, traveling a little bit further down the road, make it out of the hood. Shout out to West Adams on the west side of Chicago, by the way, 4133 West Adams, 60624. You know the block. But we head out to you know, Bolingbrook, Illinois. And that was like a breath of fresh air, literally, because you know we had to stay from outside quite a bit to avoid a lot of stuff, and then just making it out to a decent suburb where you can actually go to the park without your parents.
Right.
You know, that was real big, and but the responsibility side of it was still there. Like even though we were in a better place, I had to keep bro on my hip. He was always watching me. There was a point that woke me up. They said we're gonna get all the way raw. This little white boy, he called me the N-word. And you know, we all hooping, we playing. You know where we from, bro. Coach Steve from the west side of Chicago too. There was no white people. No white people in west side of Chicago.
Not on our block.
I was not exposed to white peers until, you know, over a decade of living. The only white people I saw were the teachers at the Catholic school me and Coach Steve went to,
Mm-hmm.
which our parents drove us to because that wasn't even on the west side of Chicago.
Right.
It was right outside the west side. So shout out to Mama and Papa Buford too, for going out of their way to make sure Coach Steve was in the right position as well. But yeah, I warned them. I had these rules of engagement my father taught me. I wasn't taught to just pop off right away, depending on the situation. Know your surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
Where we were at, I was in a position to where, hey, don't say that. That's disrespectful. Don't call me that. You don't know me. You shouldn't be saying that. That's offensive. Maturity level at this point, I realize is very different because of where I grew up. So the kids my age out there weren't operating on the same capacity that I was operating on because of what I grew up around.
Right.
So I had to school them a little bit. You don't take me serious. I get to a point where I'm triggered to react based on what I grew up around. I pull out a switchblade. I lose myself for a second. And so I tell them, before I did that, I gave one more warning. I said, you say something again, It's over.
Get that buck 50 across the neck.
Yeah.
Right.
It's over for you. He's like what my and I'm like flip.
Yep.
His eyes light up. I ain't never seen white boy run that fast. I hawk him down around the block, catch him at the park. Byron's actually running behind me the whole time. And obviously it's taking him some time to catch up because he's smaller. And I pinned this boy on the slide. I literally had a knife to his throat. And Byron's over my shoulder and he's like trying to, obviously he don't have the power to like stop me if I like decide to go stupid at this point.
Right.
And he's like pulling on me. And I like look back for a second. And the boy I got pinned down, he like ready to pee on himself. He's shaking. And I had to like come to.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying, that the control that I had and just the thought of responsibility left me for a second.
Right.
And I had to like look back and see Byron to like stop. Otherwise,
it would have been a different story.
This would be a different story. And at that point, I would say I realized much later in life that I am a good person. I say I'm a good person for the fact I've been around dangerous people in dangerous environments and equipped to, I guess, be bad. But life is about choice. And I always say you can't be good without having bad in you. You don't have
Balance.
one without the other. It's balance. You are good because you choose to do good. You choose to talk yourself off of ledges. You choose not to retaliate in certain situations. You choose not to, take what people consider the easy route in certain situations, which may be bad. It's all about choice. So that's just one story in regards to like my mental growing up and what I was exposed to, but having a strong enough village and also the want to as well, because you got to want to.
Mm-hmm.
You got to want to do better. Want to do better for my younger brother. And then also, all the work my parents put in, we were strapped. We were strapped for a minute to get out of the hood. Everything they did to make that move initially. We moved up like the Jeffersons to some extent, but it wasn't money though. We just got out there,
Right.
And so I couldn't let that be for nothing. So all of that was, at the front of my brain. And that's really what coach life is about. It's about making good choices and being a leader. And that leadership actually started at a young age with the village that was developed around me. And the responsibility of having a younger brother that I had to protect and be a good example for. And it's a lot of stuff that he has done that he gives me credit for today, just because I was able to give him game because I had already lived that part of my life by the time he was getting there.
Right.
I made sure I gave him the gems. Like, it's another thing about coaching, put your ego aside. Like, I knew he'll be better at every age I was at once he got there, because I was able to give him so much game or push him to do more than what I did, because I may not have had anybody to push me.
Right.
My examples were, as far as like peers or cousins or whatever, bad examples. I pulled some good things from it, but fortunately left a lot of the crap to the side.
Well, you made choices. again, that's you made the
Exactly.
choice, right? And
Exactly.
that's what you said. The whole premise of coach life is around is making good choices.
Yeah.
And you saw the choices that they made. You saw the outcomes that came with the choices that they made. You just decided to make different choices, which gave you different outcomes.
Yes, sir.
So one thing that you said that I wanted to kind of go back on really quick because you said it's about holding yourself to a standard, and I've always thought that when we talked about the Coach Life brand, we always talked about the brand being walking at a level, carrying yourself at a level that most people would think is unachievable, right? Or like how do you consistently walk at this level? I think it was in our pod. I think it was episode 9 when we had when Coach Rack with the support versus challenge group.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coach Rack made the comparison saying, you know, this is the level, this is the circle that I work, that I mess with. This is my circle, and everybody that's in my circle is at this level. A lot of people can't be at this level, and that means that they can't be in this circle. So you know what I'm saying? Like when you hear stuff like that, like it just makes it gives you a good definition of the Coach Life brand and what it means.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I'm just covering this is very surface because even before we got up to that move, I experienced so much. Um,
Right. And let's double down on that. Let's actually talk about that because you before, I mean, you were older at that point, at that point in time, right?
mhm.
We were let's talk about the actual accident itself. So most people don't know, but some of the people that obviously people that have listened to the pod, or at least our first pod and a couple pods, I think we've actually touched on it a couple times, is
Yeah.
that Coach Lloyd has had a very traumatic experience where he almost lost his leg in a very dangerous car accident.
Yeah.
Um, take us to the trip. Where were you guys going? And what was the get together? This sounded like one of the old school throw everybody in the back of the truck and let's
Yeah.
go someplace.
Yeah. You know, the crazy thing is this accident happened a year and some change after we moved to Bolingbrook. So it's always been funny to me because this part I didn't say like I thought I was gonna die as a child. Like I was like convinced that I would die by like gunfire or something violent in my childhood. So like when we actually moved and got out to the suburbs, I was like, okay, maybe it's not gonna happen. And then this trip comes up. The crazy thing is, I almost died on this trip. We were actually on the way to a funeral in Cleveland, Ohio. We were on a road trip to go to a funeral for, I believe it was one of my aunts, a grand aunt or something like that. Excuse me. But so we were leaving late night. It was me, Byron, my mom, my TT. That was my mom's older sister. Rest in heaven, TT. She didn't die in an accident, by the way. She passed of cancer. Um, I had been to so many funerals by at this point already too. Um, and two of my older uncles. So my uncle Jesse, rest in heaven to him as well, and my great uncle, excuse me, Clarence. So it's 6 of us in this van. We're leaving late night, and November 3rd, 1996. Um, I remember like it's yesterday. I had this very, very bad feeling about this trip. I didn't say nothing, but like something in me didn't feel good about this trip. as we were getting ready to leave the house. I never had a feeling this strong in my life. But me being a child, I'm thinking like, I'm trusting, my mom, my auntie, they were gonna drive. My uncles, a little bit older. And so in the back, bro, in the middle section of the van, and on the highway, we made it into Ohio already. I was knocked out, fell asleep, didn't have my seatbelt on. Luckily, Byron was buckled up. I was just laid straight across the middle row, stretched out. I just wake up to tumbling. Like literally, I am getting tossed around in the van. The van is tumbling on the highway. I black out, and the next time I regain consciousness, I'm on the side of the highway in the emergency lane, and I'm right next to this guardrail, and then there's this huge drop off. And wake up, I can't feel nothing. Not like paralysis, but just like it's cold too. So I said November 3rd, be in the Midwest. So, it's pretty cold out at this point already. And I sit up and my whole body just feel like numb, but I'm just like telling myself to get up. So I sit up, I go to stand, I fall back over. I can't feel nothing. And the only leg I'm moving is my right leg. And so the van is upside down in the slow lane. I look over, and I always throw a random number out. I say like 50 feet. I don't know the exact amount. Maybe I was 50 feet, or I was a nice little distance away from it. And I see like my auntie crawl out first, runs over to me. She the first one over to me. She losing it. She looked down and she just lose it. She's like, I don't know why she losing it. I'm like, I can't feel my leg. And then just slowly, she run back to the van. My uncles crawl out. I see they checking for Byron and get him out. My mom crawl out. She run over. My mom is always, even though she the younger of the siblings of her family, the youngest, it's the only one left today. But she freaks out, but she like gains control. She gains her composure. And but I know from the initial reaction, like something is all the way bad. And they like telling me, lay back, don't look down. My leg is like shredded to shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what to think at this point. And it took so long for me to like gather my thoughts about this whole accident, because this is a point where I knew I'm supposed to be here. Not right then, but down the road, just the whole scene, the whole setting. I'm thrown from a tumbling van. Picture this, we're on the highway. So we're going at least, open road travel, 70 at the
70,
minimum.
right.
You're trying to get to where you're trying to go.
Right.
70 at the minimum, probably faster. And the van tumbles, I forgot who was driving at the time, but so everybody fell asleep. So I'm assuming it's like a quick turn over the wheel, and that caused the flipping. And tumbling out of this van, like at any point during the time that I get ejected, like the van could have like tumbled on top of me. Like me being airborne at that speed, and then this huge drop off on the side of the highway, and I'm just laying right next to it. The only thing that's wrong, which is a whole lot, but compared to what It looked like
Could
it
have
should
happened.
be. It looked
Right.
like nobody should have survived this accident at all. Everybody survived, and I was in the worst shape. You know, my auntie had like a little glass. She had some glass in her arm. Um, Byron had like a scar on the back of his head at most. My uncles were fine, just banged up. My my leg is literally hanging on by skin. You know, my tibia is like out, out, exposed. I'm bleeding out. Femur broken. It's just all bad. And paramedics get there like this young boy, this father and his son pulled over to help us. I remember that. And they call for help, and the ambulance pulls up. The paramedic kind of showed me that I was gonna live because at one point I'm laying there, I'm so cold, but like the freaking out is kind of like I don't freak out though. That's the weird thing. So let me tell you where my mental was at this point in time. Think back to what I told you about before this. I told you I thought I was gonna die for sure. My childhood, like I was ready to die then. Like, I didn't feel like I was dying, but at the same time, I'm like something real bad going on in the lower half of my body. I don't know what it is. I can't feel nothing. And paramedics trying to tend to me, and I just go to close my eyes. I'm like, oh, this is it. I made it out the hood, but this is it. This
Right.
is where I'm gonna go. Like I thought I was gonna go in the hood, but like I'm gonna die on the side road from a car accident. And the guy just like he just said something simple and it like calmed me. I was like, he's just like, hey, wake up, buddy, you good. You're good. And then like the other paramedic, like he goes to like put a splint on my leg or whatever. I still don't know exactly the extent of the damage. Yeah. He was like, all right. He's like, tell me what, trying to talk to me. Tell me what you're into. I remember all this like it's yesterday. I see it in my mind as I'm talking to you. And then he was like, I don't you into it. It's your favorite sport. I said, basketball. So I'm gonna play basketball again. That's what I asked the guy. And then he's like, I forgot what he said, but they don't want to answer that question.
Right.
You want to
They can't
you
answer that
can't you
question.
can't answer that question. And yeah, man, we had to make that ride in the ambulance to a hospital in Cleveland, and was there for a few days. I was out for a while. I don't know how many surgeries I had at that point. Gained consciousness. My leg was in one of them. Uh, what you call them?
The
Yeah,
slings.
yeah. Had to wait at the end of the bed, and I was having hella flashbacks. Every time I go to sleep, I was waking up jerking, and then that would hurt because like at this point, shock is over with. I feel
Right.
everything,
Right.
everything. I got all types of pins going through my leg, and yeah, man, we drive back to Illinois. They decided to transport me, and I was in the hospital for a while before I got sent home. I don't know exactly how long it was, but I had already had a few surgeries under my belt before I went home. And total of 9 throughout that whole healing process. Bone graft, skin grafts, muscle flaps, pins, needles, half body casts, a re-break at one point during the healing process. Like, um, it was a process. I went through a lot mentally, a lot spiritually. I went through a whole lot of phases. I had a whole lot of questions.
Let's kind of dissect that a little bit because I know Luna wants to jump into one of these. Um, but I want to start with the physical aspect first and foremost because obviously, um, to be that young and have that kind of an experience can be very traumatic. So physically, you said you didn't feel anything until afterwards.
Yeah, yeah, long time afterwards.
Um,
After we got to the hospital, I do recall starting to feel pain as we got close to a hospital. It started to hit me a little bit in the ambulance, and it hadn't full on set in, but like I felt the brace on my leg. So I did start to feel a little bit of pain, but shortly after that, like they rushed me to surgery, so I went under right away, and I forgot how long that first surgery was, but yeah, when I woke up, I felt everything.
I bet. I bet.
They
So
give you that. They give you that fresh Sprite.
Huh?
They give you that choice of that water, that Sprite when you got
Yeah,
out.
you know it. You know it.
Hey, best Sprite in the world. Everybody talk
Hey,
about, man, look, McDonald's Sprite can't touch after surgery Sprite.
no, it
I
don't. It
promise you
don't.
that. It ain't
Hey,
even
man.
close.
Yeah, that hit different in the hospital. That's like yeah,
they got the remedy right there.
Man,
they
what?
know what they doing. They put something in that.
This ain't just regular Sprite.
Oh, yeah, that ain't, that's Frank White Sprite.
It's just so let's I'm gonna give this to I'm gonna give the spiritual aspect over to Luna on this one. But let's go to the mental really quick. You getting, you land on the side of the road and you said initially you said this is how I'm going. And then, you're having a paramedic kind of, talking you out of it. When you got out of surgery, where was your mental when you got out of surgery?
Um, I was
The
everywhere.
first surgery that you at least remember.
I mean, I remember the very first one, obviously, right after the accident. I just kept having like flashbacks of the accident for probably the first few nights. And I was in and out of consciousness quite a bit. Obviously, a whole lot of meds being pumped into me. Um, I was still trying to piece together everything. Like I was wondering if I was dead already. I was like, what is this? Like I can't believe I'm here. You know what I'm saying? This is something I see on TV, you know. So I was just kind of lost and wondering if I was just gonna be like this for a while or forever for that matter. Like I had no concept of time. Like I couldn't even like see my future. That's probably the best way I could sum it up. I didn't know where everything was going at all. I was just completely lost.
Hard to have a mental and you don't know what future looks like right
No,
now.
like I had no clue. Like, um, and that's the first phase. Like I said, there's a whole lot of transitions and changes in my mental throughout that whole thing. But like initially, I was just trying to grasp, some type of thought or sense of reality.
I got a question, bro.
Yeah,
So it comes back to what you were saying earlier, bro, because besides y'all, my wife and one of the pastors I used to go talk to all the time, though he was an officiant at my wedding, those are the only people I ever told this thought that I always had in my head. And it was the thought that I was going to die in a car wreck before the age of 25. I'm talking about dreams of it
yeah.
multiple times. Like, and my question to you is, you know how you was talking about how you had, you just kept having those thoughts and all this other stuff. Where do you think, like, do you think that's a common thing for people that kind of like grew up in, those poverty-stricken areas, or what's your opinion on what could be the driving cause of having those type of thoughts? Because if you think about it, as children, we shouldn't even be close to having those types of
True.
thoughts. You know what I'm saying? Like we should be having hopeful thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a billionaire. I'm gonna be an astronaut thoughts. You know what I'm saying? Like the outlandish thoughts. Why is it though that at such an early age, the idea of knowing that death could be right around the corner or literally is peeping around that corner? Why is that?
I think we're most conscious when we're young. I think everything else that we get like going into like being teenagers and going into adulthood, we get reprogrammed. I think that's why I love children. I love being around children because they're the realest little people you're gonna be around. Adults full of shit at the end of the day because we train to be full of shit. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just the reality. Who's gonna be more truthful to you, a child or an adult? Like a child's gonna say the raw truth, even if it hurts, because they
They
weren't
don't know any
taught.
better.
You know, it's like they telling you what they see, what they observing. You know, that's ugly. Like, don't say that. Like, no, it really is.
Right.
That's just a child. And so you know, we get taught to operate outside of that. So I think everything that we see around us naturally, that's all we know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only thing, like I said, like even when the accident, like trying to come to, I'm like, it's something I see on TV. Like outside of television, we didn't see those success stories. Like that was just entertainment to me. Like astronauts, I went to the doctor's office with one of those doctors living around me. Like a lot of times that was a 20-minute drive.
Yeah. And the damn show didn't look like me.
Yeah,
Right.
man, it don't look like me. So, you know, everybody that looked like me and everything that's happened around me, like even on my block, like there was some serious operations on my block. Like I as a shorty, I seen a couple SWAT raids literally right across the street from my house, from my apartment building, like right across the street. Everybody out on the
Mm-hmm.
streets, cop cars everywhere. Like as far as like what I see on TV, the side of the story I'm on is whatever the thug is being portrayed on TV.
Right.
That's the only thing I ever saw myself as. I didn't. So to answer your question, like that's what we was exposed to. So we can't see nothing else.
I think I've asked you this question in person, so I kind of have an idea because you even me the nickname of the alleyways and all this other stuff and how tight it was. That can you tell like because I after you told me how close everything was and how like this could happen that fast and you wouldn't nobody would know like could you give us like a visual representation of what it was like in that area that you grew up in?
I mean, your buildings are like they next to each other. Like you sharing walls for the most part. Um,
You
and
could
then
touch both buildings literally. Like if
right,
you
right.
spread your arms
So
out and
what
you can
I
touch both
remember what
buildings.
I told you they was called with like that space
I
between
can't
the
remember the
two
name, but
buildings,
I
the
remember the
gangway,
explanation. Say that one
gangway,
more time.
the gangway.
The gangway. That's what it was.
Yeah, like yeah, it's so many areas, spots, nooks, and crannies where you know stuff go down and things happen, and yeah, you can be missing in one, and nobody would know for a minute.
True enough.
Um, you know, like I just couldn't. You can't escape it, man. It's kind of hard. I remember a story. Me and Coach Steve, when we was in college. I don't know if you remember this. We was going down Cermak. We was heading into the city. I forgot what. I think we was going to like to your pop's job, and like even on that small trip, I think we like looked down a street. You was driving, and it was people gathered around like it was a fresh murder scene. Like we literally just glanced over and saw like three bodies on the ground.
Yep.
And it's like we weren't even in that no more. It's like and like even in your adulthood and you think you're out of it,
It's still there.
Come
it's
back
still
around.
And it's crazy because I do remember that we were driving down yeah, we are coming down Cermak, we were by North Avenue,
mm-hmm.
and it literally like right there, it's three dudes laying on the ground, right
Right.
on the ground.
Wasn't a cop
And
car in sight yet.
exactly.
Like they
Like,
look like they just got fanned down.
yep. So, and it's crazy because you just get numb to it.
Yeah,
You
because
just
we kept like we kind of looked over like damn, and then just like looked straight again, and they
just
went on, and it wasn't like a discussion again. That's kind of the sad part to me about it. Um, but like I'll kind of like circle back around to talking about choice. I was always concerned about myself being like numb. Like that's something I was conscious of. Like even in situations where I didn't feel, I knew deep down inside of me knew it wasn't normal. And
Right.
I even like funny thing is when I started going to therapy in my adulthood, my mom had to stop and ask me and make sure she didn't mess up. I kind of felt bad. I was like, nah, me going to therapy ain't got nothing to do with you. You didn't do nothing wrong. I said, you did a great job. You know what I'm saying? I had to like reassure her, like, what I talk about therapy ain't got nothing to do with
with
our
you.
household. It was what was outside the household. What you and dad worked hard to protect us from. But I lost emotion. I lost so much emotion in that. You know what I'm saying? Like a huge part of me when I started going to therapy was like I had to go, like one of my practices, and I still gotta occasionally do it. I have to like pick words off of an emotion wheel because I don't naturally just feel it all the time. And like what Steve's saying, like you kind of go numb. I think that's the sad part. Like, circle back around to your question, getting used to the thought of, dying at a young age, like that's crazy.
Yeah,
And
bro.
being the craziest part is being okay with it. I'm still not afraid of death. Like when I told you about the siege on the plane, you know, everybody else was more freaked out around me than I was. I was like, oh, I blanked out. And even then, I didn't even like start worrying like, oh, what if this going on inside of me? Ooh, I'm just like, when it's time to go, it's time to go because I'd have made it farther than I thought I was gonna make it. But it's two ways
Damn,
that
bro.
people with that thought can go, and once again it goes back to choice. You can be reckless operating like that,
I was
Mm-hmm.
just about to say that. I finally
or
didn't ask sword.
but at the same time, the things that I hated about where I grew up in Chicago, why should anybody else have to suffer because you numb or you can't figure things out? That ain't got nothing to do with nobody else. That's one thing that I always been conscious of. Well, I always consider myself good. Like I'm not gonna drag nobody else in the mud or destroy another family because I can't figure things out internally.
Right.
But I do have some things figured out because I have the consciousness to work on those things. I've always had that consciousness. And that's what I try to spread the good parts.
Let's go a little bit further down the train right now. We had the accident. We had the surgeries. And I remember vividly you telling me there was a moment of doubt, and then there was a moment of nah, what's next? So let's start talking about the mental transition when we have had the surgeries and the switch that you had to turn on, the gear that you had to get to shift to continue to push through and tell yourself, no, I'm not gonna be a statistic.
And I think probably it took a while. Like the whole figuring things out, trying to figure things out, that that was a process. That was definitely a long time. I think, bro, to be honest with you, I was months into into the process. I probably was 5, 6 surgeries in already before like I came to and was like, where are we going from here? Like I was just going through the process, the little bit of physical therapy I was able to do, which took a while to get to before I can, even let my leg hang off the side. I want to say that the shift was one, and I'll segue a little bit to the spiritual side. So, I was questioning God and everything. And purpose, what am I even here for? Like, what am I going through this for? I had a little sunshine, a little light. We made the move. We got the hood. Boom. You almost killed me outside of the hood. I'm like, I thought I escaped the danger. And so um it was one Sunday or Saturday, it might have been the evening. I told my mom, I said, I had just been doing some thinking. I was like, maybe I just need to go to church. I need to go to church. And maybe I'll get some answers there. Because I was always used to going to my grandfather for answers. When I lived next to him, we used to live right next door when we was in the city. And he was he owned the church. He was the pastor. So I was like, yeah, I want to go to church. And so at this point, this is right before the re-break. Here's the crazy part. The femur they thought was healed enough to take the pins out. No cast, anything. So I'm still just got the pins in the lower half. The femur, they was like, all right, we're in a good place. I had a procedure, had the pins removed for that. And so now I just have pins on my lower part of my leg. And I want to say maybe like it had been 2 days. It might have been a Friday. And so that Saturday, I said I wanted to go to church. I think at this point, I had a little bit of hope. I had more hope easing into my system. And we go to church. And I remember getting out the car. A couple of the brothers helping like carry me and, take my wheelchair up the stairs. I felt the pop at some point, but I didn't feel a whole lot of pain. I just felt the pop. And I said, that's weird. But as the day progressed, kind of like when things initially happened, I started to feel a little bit more. And certain movements, it was spiking. And at that point, I tell my mom, I say, I think it's broken. And she's like, why you say that? I said, it don't feel right. And I'm like, when I move a certain way, I feel it more. So I remember her trying to get me in the tub at night, and like the pain went on a scale of 1 to 10, that shit went to 20. And like they try to get me in the tub, and I'm like yelling. I'm like, it's broken. I'm convinced. She called Dr. Beakey. Shout out Dr. Beakey. I don't know if he's still around, but he was older when he was working on me. Funny thing is, in the same medical group that worked on my shoulder when I tore my labrum when we was playing football in college. So he was still practicing there. The surgeon that did my shoulder actually was like, yeah, I got one of your old patients. He couldn't believe I was playing football. And but back to this part. So convinced she calls when they set up emergency appointment. They bring me to outpatient surgery area. They do an x-ray. Sure enough, confirmed it is broken. And I remember at that point in time, my mom sitting on the side of the bed, and Dr. B was like, we gotta go to surgery. They come up with a new plan. It was like, all right, you're this far along with your tibia and your fibula. And with the femur, based on where you're at, we're just gonna put you in a half body cast. We're gonna take all the pins out. We're gonna put you in a half body cast. This is the new timetable. She crying on the side of the bed next to me.
Hold on. You telling me all this happened and the hospital ain't named after you yet? Bro.
Yeah.
Oh, re-break, and then they put you in a half a body cast. You out here looking like a Looney Tune character, bro.
Yeah.
Thought they out of line, bro.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy, mom. I mean, The crazy thing is, I didn't even talk about the fact, like, well, before we got to that point, I had progressed past the point, which I found out after the fact. They had talked about amputating the leg. So this was like post amputation talk. So I had got out of that fire up to this point. And yeah, my mom was crying on the side of the bed when they, it was like, yeah, we're going into surgery tomorrow, and this is the new plan. I had to be strong for her. I calmly looked over and said, "It's okay." I said, "It's fine." That's all I
And
could do.
I feel like the reason it was easy for you to say, "Mom, it's okay," is because of the experiences you've gone through being a kid. We don't have a choice, but it's gonna be okay, or it's gonna be over, because that's how you thought about it.
Yeah,
It's either it's gonna be over with or it's gonna be okay. And just like Coach Luna said, like this, it's sad as a kid that you can have those kind of thoughts, or that you're even thinking to that degree.
yeah. But everything I came from, things get easier. Experience things get easier to handle and deal with through that process, making it up to that point. Um, I still had I had more calmness at that point than I had throughout the whole process. That's another crazy thing about that I remember. Even with the re-break, you think like I'll be defeated, but uh, back to your question, I was ready. I was ready to turn it around. When he had the new plan and the pins were coming out, and he explained the half body cast situation and the timetable for what that would look like. The thing with the clean break was after it healed very fast. So he was explaining that to me, and then I was like, all right, so I'm not gonna be in half body cast for too long. Most uncomfortable fucking thing in my life. But I was literally in an incline position for a month and a half. Um, and talk about itching at the bottom of your leg. You ain't working a hanger down there without cutting some up. So I couldn't do that. But yeah, I was just like, yo, let's do it, get past this, cut that part off. Once I get down to just like, without the half body cast, we just got the full leg cast. I
Mm-hmm.
was able to actually go full pressure at that point with the cast on my leg. And it wasn't long before it was just the bottom part. So the femur actually healed much faster after it rebroke than it did the first time. But nothing was clean before. And so, which is why I had bone grafts too. They had to take bone from my back and put it in my leg.
So through this whole thing, you didn't suffer any nerve damage.
Yeah, I
You
did.
did?
Yeah, so I definitely got parts of my left leg, like mostly around my ankle area, and I can't even. You probably didn't even notice, but I compensate for it pretty good. But I walk on the side of my left foot, so my foot is never truly laying flat unless it's forced by it being in a shoe, depending on the shoe itself. But I'm always like I don't have full flexibility in my ankle, so I had a lot of nerve damage down there. And then I can't feel nothing where the little gash I got on my left leg where my bone had popped out. And then also the bump. I got a bump where they had the muscle flaps. I had a partial tear in my calf muscle. So I don't want to get into technical medical terms because most people ain't gonna know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have a lot of feeling there neither. But I can still control it though. That's the weird
Man, Steve, I'm gonna tell you this. Why we know each other now, bro. The
Mm-hmm.
first time I seen Wash in some shorts and I seen his leg, bro, I was like, bro, did he get bit by a shark? Like,
It's
I
almost like
get
a skin
like,
graft,
I got
right?
man,
all
like
type of
did
assumptions.
Jaws
Like,
come and like grab a chunk of him? Cause dog, that's how much of it was missing. Then I
Yes.
was like, all right, it ain't no shark bite. So I'm like, all right, maybe he was a Marine and a C4 blew up on his leg or something.
Right.
Dog, I'm just trying to get people to grasp like how much of a divot and like chunk is actually was missing. And then I've seen him start running and displaying routes and covering and stuff. And I'm like,
How?
bro, how?
So let's for those who obviously we're gonna show your leg, but let's put this in perspective. I want you to think about your calf. If you just look down at your calf and cut it in half visually.
And then cut
The
that in
right
half.
cut that in half, and that is how much calf it looks like Coach Lloyd has on his leg. That's
Facts.
that's how that's how much is missing right now. Now, to say that you're still playing basketball, you're still playing football, and still running and doing track and everything else that you do right now
A
is
man was a jump
no
roping king.
exactly. For you to be doing any of these things takes a willpower like no other. Like no other. I'm not to say again that there's not people out there that haven't gone through similar experiences, but it says something to a person's willpower that they are able to get themselves mentally prepared to push through, especially at a young age.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about a child. And I think Luna, you said this earlier. Again, for a child to have the mindset of, oh, I'm not gonna make it to 18 and then still have the mental capacity to handle an accident like this and then still continue to push through that, man, there's a mental toughness there
Yeah,
that's just on another level.
yeah, I would say I want to give a lot of credit to my moms, my pops too. Moms have more of direct, very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Intentional conversations with us all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to this day, I can talk straight to my mom, and I share things with her even as a teenager. Most people be like, "Oh, I'm probably gonna lose this connection with my child by the time I'm a teenager." It'd be stuff I tell her I was comfortable just because she established that relationship early. And
Mm-hmm.
so me and Byron always at a young age have been very conscious, very open in a lot of ways. And Byron, like no ego, straight to the side. He'll flat out just be kind of like, thank you. Like I couldn't be on the side that you was on in that accident. I would have never did everything you did. He said, I know this. Like I know this about myself. Like Byron has called me superhero multiple times. Um, but determination, man. Like I once the switch flipped, like after that re-break, that was really the turning point for me mentally. Even spiritually, where I was like, I'm still gonna do everything that I want to do. You can't tell me otherwise. Then I just took it into my own hands, even outside of physical therapy. Like I'm talking about putting myself through pain.
Yeah. I still like seeing your leg and then the stories that you told me and then relating back to my surgery. I'm looking at mine like, bro, you okay? I'm telling myself, bro, like, bro, you
Yeah.
weak, bro. Cause I remember, bro, I still remember my first day of rehab. Cause if y'all don't know, the minute you get done with surgery, you are in rehab the very next day.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
ain't no laying around the bed, nothing. Man, I
Mm-mm.
go and all they wanted me to do was squeeze my quad, bro. Squeeze my quad. I'm squeezing, ain't nothing twitching, ain't nothing moving. And immediately, bro, my nose started bleeding, like dripping. I'm like, man, what the hell
Yeah.
going on, bro? Like y'all did something to my brain too. Damn, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, I'm over here tripping. And then, I come to find out it might have been like the anesthesia and all this other crap. But man, I look back and I'm like, bro, everything that you had to go through, you had to do that twice. Bro, I couldn't imagine having to go through my PT again.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's next level, bro.
yeah.
On a double
Think,
back too.
And wait though, and wait, coach. This is as a kid.
That's what I'm
You got
saying,
your
bro.
surgery as a
I
teenager.
was
So at
I
least
was six, I was like what, 14,
so I'm
15?
saying you at least a teenager.
Yeah, you know
You
what I'm
didn't even make
saying?
it that far.
yeah, I think yeah, I was homeschooled most of sixth grade. That happened because that's when that happened. And then I went back seventh grade. And this is where Lloyd Washington Jr. like took full effect in a sense mentally. Now Junior is outwards with his I don't give a fuck. My father, Coach Steve. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Internally, because I'm definitely more laid back than he is, but I'm still every bit of him. So, and that he can come out of me still to this
Mm-hmm.
day. What it can be an outward situation, but think about being around 12, 13-year-old, your peers at this point in time. You know, I can't do anything right. I mean, I'm good material for anybody who want to go into a roast session, right? Just thinking about kids. But like, man, it's something about how I carried myself. I didn't have to go through it. I still had like respect for my peers. Like I expected to like get all type of clowning when I was still trying to rehab. Like I still had like a little gimp in my run. I was trying to still get everything together. It didn't deter me because I had my own mission. I'm like they have no clue what happened here. I was on my own mission, but fortunately, I didn't have to deal with that. I definitely will say the people around me definitely were very respectful. Then that's when I got into football. Actually, Byron was the football kid. I was the hooper, and then I actually played football going into eighth grade. And moms was like, "No." I still had like 3 to 6 month visits with my orthopedic surgeon for a couple of years after the fact, just check-ins. Going in eighth grade, mom's was like, "Nah." Then pops was taking me to the appointments, but he worked third shift, so he could take me to the appointments during the day. Dr. Beakey, this is what he said to him. He said, "If this was your son," he said, "let me ask you this way: if this was your son, would you let him play football?" He was like, "I fix broken legs and arms on football players all the time. So ain't no difference between him and any other kid playing football." He said, "Good point." Pops went
That's
down
playing football.
home, put that foot down, like just what Dr. Beakey said. I agree with him.
And on all 10 with it.
And yeah, I went out there smacking everything I could smack, unloading. Byron to
There
this
you
day
go.
was like, "Boy, I wish you was a thicker dude," because he was like, he said, "I think you played DN better than you played any other position." And keep doing that going into high school, but just reckless, nasty. I was on one.
That's what's up, yo. So we make our transition.
Yeah.
We start to rehab. We start to get better. Where does where does the was there any point outside of once the re-break happened and you going through the PT again? Was there any point where we had any more doubt, or still operating on another level at that point and still
Oh
progressing to
no,
another
no,
level at that
I
point?
went all the way dumb, bro. I never went backwards after that. I would say, yeah, after that, I was at the park, like I was on crutches.
Mm-hmm.
My mom said, she opened the door, like she let go, surprisingly. But like I was playing baseball, bro. I had somebody running for me, and I was batting, and I was designated pitcher. Like I was doing everything I could. I'll shoot the ball, have somebody rebounding for me. Like I had a nice little circle. It take care of me. And I was out. Once I got that cast down to like the half level, not half body cast, but the
Mm-hmm.
femur had healed again. Nah, you couldn't slow me down. They tell me I was doing too much.
What kept the motivation?
Uh,
Because motivation, obviously, we talked about this before. Motivation don't last. There's got to be something past motivation that continues to keep you moving forward, right? But what was it for you that just kept you pushing and progressing forward?
Man, I just the progress and then the will, and I think all those thoughts, the whys, like why me and how did I survive, that stuff start occasionally coming into my mind a lot, because I think a lot of people lose sight of certain things and they take for granted what they've been through, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't consider like once again, I should have been dead. Really, if you look at what the accident was, like we all should have been dead. Me especially. And this is the extent of the cross that I got to carry. Nah, I got a lot more to do. I'm a testimony. I'm the same way I was an example for my brother. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think that stuff started to settle and resonate with me more at that age, and than a lot of people realize. And I started kind of realizing myself. So aside from me just wanting to do things, how I carry myself, I started recognizing how other people operated around me. People gravitate to me naturally, and I was starting to see that, and so that pushed me even more too. I'm like, that I even remember, and this was just like happening throughout the rest of childhood, teenage years, and into adulthood, where like occasionally I would get somebody tell me like, people watching you, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like people see what you doing. You told me that when we was in college once. And I think it was random, and I was just like, "You high?" and then,
No, sir.
and I was just like, man, it became a reoccurring theme. Like you got people paying attention to you.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, it's for, I got a greater purpose, and always kind of kept to myself, mostly outside of the small circle that we keep, but. I just always try to lead by example. That even annoyed Byron a little bit, because Byron's a freshman in high school when I was a senior. And for those who don't know, I'm gonna brag on my little brother. He's on starting as a sophomore on the sophomore team as a freshman at linebacker. He's actually, as a sophomore, one of the top linebackers in Illinois as a sophomore on varsity. And the boy quit football.
Exactly.
He quit playing
Be like that
football.
sometimes.
But being an example, like I prepped him. Like as an eighth grader, his whole summer was with me. I woke him up and he didn't fight back neither. He wanted the game. I was like, you coming with me? He's up at 6 a.m. for weights for football. Then we had our training on the field, go back home, eat, hydrate. You coming back up here with me for basketball camp early afternoon. So we had 2 a days. I was working them two sports before he even was fully enrolled in high school. And so that back to my responsibility, man. I mean, it's to him, but this always been bigger than me, and it still is. And I just had to get out, there's things I wanted to do, but a lot of stuff that I pushed myself through, I did realize a greater responsibility to those around me. And just being a good example, like you don't have to uh, fall to your circumstances. You don't have to fall to your environment.
True enough. I think that's where again kind of comes full circle. Like you you had a natural your dad instilled this in you and having um a natural caregiving, feel for your brother.
Yeah.
And that carried on for not just your actual brother, but everybody else you consider
Oh, you
your
you you
brothers
you
also.
was there for that late night pull off of campus when he called me and
Mm-hmm.
said some people trying to roll up on Coach Luna.
Let's go.
Man, I grabbed Coach Steve, uh, our
I
boy
think Henry was there
AD.
too.
Man, we loaded up the car. I was back at the crib ASAP. Beat every light, every cop, about to do damage. Yeah, he called me. He couldn't believe how fast we got over there too. But I mean,
Yeah,
he
just take
fortunately
care of
got
your
out the
brothers.
yeah, he got out the jam. But I was like, I said, we still about to circle the block though,
for
and
sure.
and see
Take
what's
take
to it.
care of people. Pretty
Yeah,
pretty essentially, man. Just making sure you're taking care of people. And again, I think that's the premise of the Coach Life brand, right? It's just
yeah,
taking care of people. It's taking care of brothers, building each other's brands. And you've been able to kind of showcase that in like everything even from a young age. Like you've been able to showcase that from a very young age. And it's it's um it's funny because we talk about it, everything coming back full circle. And you created a brand to continue to help pour into people, build people, holding yourself and yourself and others to a higher standard. And again, that's what you said in the very beginning, right?
yeah.
You carried yourself to a to a higher level because you didn't want your brother to see you not at that level.
Another thing I want to let be known too. Um, as leaders and people that have been, I say, chosen. All of us on this pod are chosen. Um, you have to be okay with falling even once you get into the light, because that is still going to be an example of will, want to, perseverance, whatever word you could think of, but you still have to and then the humility that needs to be there is key as well.
Mm-hmm.
One of my most proudest moments recently was and I knew which way it was gonna go to. When I love my son raced me. Was that earlier this year? I think it was
Mm-hmm.
back in May. I was up there, and he's I had put him in track down here in Houston early on when we were living here. He ran for track Houston. I ended up coaching track Houston, and
Great dogs out here in Houston, by the way.
oh yeah, yeah. So track way bigger down here in Texas than it is in Illinois. And you got some people, but here it's a plethora. It's more serious here, and so he was running with some boys already been in it a couple of years, so it was tough for him, like getting with the routine and the workouts they was doing at the age level. I was like, boy, it's all the way different. I said, this workouts I was doing when I was in high school, and he was
Mm-hmm.
in like the 8, 9-year-old group, and he was one of the younger ones in the group, and they had them boys had been running together a couple of years. So he was behind a little bit, and I was like, he wanted to quit. I was like, we don't do that. I said, you're gonna take L's until you get to the front. period. We gonna finish the season. I was working on my master's when they pulled me into coaching. They asked me to coach because a jump, man, you talk about purpose and how things line up. They ran a camp and the jumping coach was running late. And I asked the lady, I said, Cam said he was interested in jumping. And so I was like, oh, yeah, I like that. And I think he was just interested because he knew I jumped when I was in track. So he was like, yeah, I want to do the jumping part of the camp. And they was like, man, our coach is running late. And then the lady looked at me and said, you jumped, didn't you? And I said, what? She said, you jumped, didn't you? I said, yeah. And I was like, was you making an assumption because I'm checking for my son? She was like, no, I feel like this is happening on purpose. It was literally what the woman is saying. She running the camp, one of the head coaches in that area for Tri Houston. She was like, if you don't mind, can you go run the jumping portion of the camp? And I'm like, what? I'm like,
What that stipend look like?
right, you know what I'm saying? And then so like I'm like, all right, here the crazy thing, bro. I had just had a procedure the day before. I wasn't even supposed to be on my feet. I had just had a procedure the day before, and I was supposed to be resting. I thought I was just gonna be sitting in the bleachers. I went ahead and did it anyway. I ain't do no examples. I talked through it the best I could through everything, but and then we wrapped up, and she was like, "What you think about coaching?" And I was just like, "Wow." She was like, "I think this all happened for a reason." Everything has always lined up like this in my life. It's crazy. And I ended up coaching that team. I was still working on my master's. I was full time, finishing up my master's, 3 days a week with them. The whole Saturday was track meets. And I pushed that boy through that season. And then he came back around after moving back up to the Chicago area. He was like, Dad, I think I want to do track again. Because he didn't do it again after that year. And he was like, he said, I kind of miss it. And naturally, the boy hopped back in there. We was going over workouts. And I always post clips too. I've been training them, speed training them, and explosion training them. When he was doing flag football and started playing basketball. And when I had to race him, I knew he was ready. I was like, "I give you the race," because I knew how I was gonna make him feel. I didn't tell him. I ain't made no excuses like Dad and lost his gears or nothing like that. I'm gonna give him the race. Byron thought the whole time I still would be able to beat him. I said, one, I'm not going to throw this up to my age and the fact that I don't speed train no more. But for y'all coaches out there, there's a difference between people with naturally fast and trained speed. After my accident, that definitely turned into trained speed. I was naturally fast before my accident, but everything beyond that point was definitely work. But yeah, he cooked me. That was the most proudest moment that I had over the past in a long time. I was happy about it. Byron,
Happy father right there.
huh?
Happy father.
Yeah, Byron, like, man, Cam only 15. He supposed to be able to get you yet, man. I'm just like, I said, boy, Cam almost running a 23-second 200. I said, and Byron didn't run track. So for y'all that don't know, it's definitely some people, some kids out here faster than that at 14. Or yeah, he was 14 when we had that, right? He wasn't even 15 yet. I said, but it ain't a lot of 14-year-olds running 23-second 200s. It ain't. You go to a varsity meet and see a bunch of 23s. The ones at the front, they'll be sub 22, but I'm like, he only 14, but I'm like, he been training for this and he works out on his own. And a lot of that come from him seeing me, him knowing my story, him seeing me work out as a grown man and continue to take care of my body. To this day, I can say to my kids, hard work, dedication. I just yell it out randomly, and they'll reply back, I yell hard. I'll just say hard working. They yell back dedication. And I say I'm working while you working, and then they yell back I'm working while you sleeping. And shout out to bro Byron on that too. Like I said, back to the village, Uncle Byron
Mm-hmm.
helping instill that in him as well. Good
Takes a
stuff.
village,
I have a
yo.
question for you.
Yeah.
Let me just ask one question. It's gonna pretty much kind of like tie into a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about. Everything that you went through, especially as a youngin growing up, how do you change the thought process of what if, like what if this, what if that, like circumstances? How do you change that what if into I am or I will? What are the things that you do to get yourself mentally to no matter what's in front of me, I know I'm gonna get through this.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I always say to people like I deal with that with adults around me to this day, let alone youngsters. Ain't shit you can do about the past. Period. Ain't nothing you can do about it. So get out of it. Uh, get out of it, and if you're gonna dig in it, use it as a textbook. You should be learning. That's it. Period. We not sit in the past and sit here in a hole, but that's what you have to remember at all points in time. I tell people all the time, like, and just back to what we've been talking about, it's been easier for me to deal with anything that comes up because of what I've been through. Anything lesser than that is I always reflect back and be like, I've been through way more. And if I go through more than what I've been through, I know what I'm built for too. So I'm not going to lay down and check out in any situation. I'm not gonna do it because I didn't do it before. Well, I'm gonna do it today. And I already been through it. And I know I'm built for more too. So the what ifs don't do nothing but just put you in a hole that you can't do nothing about. So why we not working towards what we can control at this point? What we can control is our choices right now and what we can do to try to better ourselves for the future.
Mm-hmm.
So keeping that in your mind and at the forefront of your mind is all you can really do. I can control me, I can control my choices. I can't control everybody else around me or everything that happens randomly, but I can choose to respond.
Mm-hmm.
I can choose to calculate,
Mm-hmm.
and I can choose to move forward.
Facts.
Don't know.
Facts. So I think that was a good ending question right there, Coach Luna. And how you continue to push through and how this all kind of ties back in. It's all about pouring back into somebody. It's all about leading and being the example. And that's what again the Coach Life brand is about. So it's about being the leader that most people don't want to be, putting in work in that most people won't put in, doing little things that most people probably wouldn't do, right? Because it requires a little bit more of yourself. And it's funny, and I'm gonna take it back to a spiritual realm, um, from a meme that I heard, and I think me and Coach Luna talked about this last week. The more you continue to pour into people, like you got to understand, God's watching you. Whether I don't know if again where some people's faith are. I know the people on this pod. I know where you guys' faith is, but that's the reason why you get the rewards. You get the gold at the end of the rainbow, right? You get that pot of gold is because God is watching those little things that you're doing right now. He's watching you pouring into people. He's watching you go the extra mile, push a little bit more, say that I'm not going to quit, right? Not going to give up. I'm going to do a little bit better. He's watching you. So when you start feeling depleted, when you start feeling like there's nothing left, when you start feeling like I don't have anything else, you magically get that reset button that's pushed for you. Just like Coach Wash got that reset button. And again, you can look at it however you want to look at it. but you got a reset button when you have at that break again, bro. God gave you that reset button one more time just to
What
say,
I
hey,
call it,
man.
Luna, we talked about this, the shot collar. It's the shot
Exactly.
The
collar
shot
on the
collar,
dog.
baby.
Wake
Yep.
up, boy.
Yep.
You're supposed to be doing that. You're supposed to be
Yeah.
doing this.
You wandering over here. Here, let me get you back on track and get you back over here. But
Come
that's what
back
it's
here.
about. That's what it's about, yo. It's about getting yourself back on track and back focused and back on the square. And I think that's what this brand is about. And that's what I'm most proud of, is that I get a chance to get on this pod with some very educated brothers and continue to challenge each other and push the envelope a little bit further and be a little bit better than we were last week. Because I know for a fact that every time we have one of these conversations, I'm able to go back into work. I'm able to go back into my personal life. I'm able to go back to talk to my kids. I'm able to go back to talk to a friend. I'm able to go back anywhere and use any of the conversations that we've had on multiple occasions to pour back into somebody else. I think that's what this brand is about, and that's why this is important. So I want to thank Coach Wash for sharing his story with us today, and giving us a true perspective on really truly pushing through. And the cool part is if anybody has been paying attention, if you've been paying attention, every single one of these podcasts has been leading up to this conversation. What the Coach Life brand is about, what we are about as coaches, as leaders, as mentors, as students, right? Because we're still learning and still growing. Again, we don't do everything right. We don't say everything right, but we continuously growing and continuously progressing. And that's the most important part.
Well, I'm gonna leave on this, and then I'm gonna try to dig into my memory best as I can. But this is I thought about it because Luna asked me, like, the last question in regards to like the what ifs and all of that. It's as much strength as I may display or discuss, I constantly have to talk to myself. I'm also a writer, for those that really know me. And so I want to dig into this piece I wrote. It was a very tough time in my early adulthood when I was trying to battle some demons. I had to remind myself that waking up is the best thing. Glory be to God, because he is the best king. I keep him on my mind even through the testing. Every day I'm looking forward to his blessings. Passing every test with an A. I'm meditating on his word through the night and day. Well, I say meditating on his word through the night and day. Run DMC showed me how to walk this way. Because the devil tried to kill me, man. 11 years old, he threw me from a minivan. God saved me because it wasn't part of his plan. On the E-way, covered by his mighty hand. Yeah, the bully tried to get at me. I had to tell the devil, nah, you can't get at me. I'm rolling with the Lord because it's the way to be. I never lose because I always got the victory. Blessed.
Bars. Now I'm expecting that to be followed with one of class's hooks and a track, so I can go ahead and put it on the back end of this podcast, sir. So, yes, sir. Again, Coach Luna, closing thoughts before we get out of here, brother.
Man, again, your willpower, your I am instead of your what ifs, belief in yourself, and knowing that, the response to whatever the situation may be, the fact that you got to open up those eyes again, the fact that you're still here through whatever it is that you're going through is a walking testament that you were chosen to go through this. And whatever that it is situation is just that reset button. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it is, you know that there's something you need to go ahead and work on. Work on it. This is your chance.
Absolutely. Coach Lloyd, anything left right now?
Got any more bars?
Have you got any more bars you trying to spit right now?
I always got bars.
Don't give them all of them, bro. Don't give them all of them, bro. You gotta save some for next week.
I'm loaded. Well, I'm just gonna write some more tonight. It don't matter.
There you go, bro.
Man, my biggest takeaway is one thing that I had to do that I see people struggling with. I want to speak to this specifically because I actually see a lot of people struggling with this. Me personally, I have been an example of I also have tried to run from my calling on multiple occasions.
Mm.
And then also there is the concern with being in the spotlight and this expectation to demonstrate perfection once you are in that spotlight. You have to be comfortable with people seeing you fall because that is being human and that's real and it's okay. So I want to hopefully inspire those who are chosen to be in areas of leadership to fall, be okay with falling, but don't settle when falling. Know how to pick yourself up. Make sure the fall is truly an accident. I stumbled. you're not
Right.
you're not jumping. There's a
Exactly.
difference. You're not jumping, but even in that failing, pick yourself back up, and that's just another success story. The failing is going to happen. It's going to happen. Losing is going to happen. Pick yourself back up. Be okay with it, and show people like I do this.
It's commonplace.
It's commonplace.
Yep.
I'm him. Yeah. I'm him not being the goofy little, media, what I am him. It's
I'm
me.
him.
You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
Not that.
Yeah, all that crap, you know what I'm saying?
Not
The
that.
little, the ego tripping, I'm him, but like I'm him in the sense that he is I and I am him. That's another bar. Shout out. Jigga. All right.
I'm about to say, I know whole quote when I hear whole quote.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a whole quote. I was gonna say you can't take credit for that one, bro.
No, I ain't even trying to do it, but I know my hip hop. So, but when I say I am him, I'm him, it means something different. It ain't about me. I'm him means that I'm yes,
Yeah.
sir. Point
Right.
up there. I'm here for what I'm supposed to be here for. I am him. He is living through me to deliver to you. Period. And you don't have to believe
Somebody.
in God, but you can believe in purpose.
Right. Man. That right there is that's what it is
Bing.
right there. That's exactly, bro. That's the button right there. Purpose. And that's what this is about. That's exactly what this is about. I'm gonna leave with this because we talk about this all the time. We talk about pouring into people, but it's important to pour into yourself. Continue to pour back into yourself. Continue to do the things that are required of yourself to get yourself to the next level. The next time you think about helping somebody, before you start to help them, think about what position you need to be in to help them first. How can I help somebody if I'm not in the position to really help them? It's like standing on a broken bridge and somebody's hanging off the edge and you standing on the edge with them. You're gonna try to help them.
We both gonna die.
We both gonna die.
I'm leaving blind.
Exactly. So you can't lead somebody unless you get yourself in a position to lead. So we'll leave you guys with that. Again, I appreciate Coach Lloyd, dropping the story on us, giving us some motivation, some continued motivation right now, which that motivation needs to come with one thing, and that's consistency, right? We can't have the motivation without the consistency. So everybody, please go out there and be motivated, but also remember, be consistent in your motivation. Motivation ain't gonna last. So that being said, if you want to hear more from the Coach Life podcast radio family, hit that like and subscribe button. Until the next time, stay positive, my friends.